Sorry about that. Listen, Hoist, this crashing business isn't exactly the kind of acting I had in mind.
Welcome back to the Titanium here. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about the 55 Hughes NewAge Powerglide. And this is a very G1-esque looking Powerglide, and as it stands right now, the best looking G1 Legends figure on the market. But I did get this to shows. I'm going to have a link down below where you can get yours. Let's get into taking a look at NewAge Hughes. Here's the packaging. I usually show it with the figure in it, but I didn't this time, so I do like that the packaging shows the figure, which is something that we're kind of getting away from everywhere, even with like NewAge, Magic Squares getting away from it, and of course Mainline. Hopefully they get back to it. But here we go. Alright, so looking at him overall, he is a pretty decent looking figure as a Powerglide figure would go. I like the paint. I do like that you have the aesthetic of Powerglide and how he should look. And my only negative really is the feet. The way they did the feet looks kind of strange and kind of similar to the DX9 in a way, but I think DX9 handled the feet a little bit better than this. But we'll be looking at that here in a little bit too. So overall though, nice looking figure, pretty solid, very solid. All the joints are very stiff and tight, and it doesn't look like he is going to fall over or anything like that. And so pretty clean from the back. He does have a little bit of a backpack, and you do see some die cast in there in the back of the legs, and then the paint just really does shine. As you can see as I move it, it glimmers in the light, and that's really nice. But let's get into taking a closer look at his paint. Getting the camera, get in there on those eyes. He's got some nice paint on the eyes, paint on the forehead, and it's really small, hard to get a good look at it. And of course, the whole thing is painted aside. The arms are not, I don't think the arms are painted, but all the red is. Then we have down here on the pelvis area some more detail painted in with the yellow and the red. And that's about it. But that's about all you would really need. And looking rather nice. One thing that NewAge always does is a good job on the presentation and the paint and all that kind of stuff. Some of the designs, I don't like the designs so much. Like I wish it would have done something better with the feet. But that kind of gets into, I'm curious, because now that they put this out and a whole bunch of different iterations of different painted versions of blue one coming, some other ones, then I wonder what Magic Square is going to do as a rebuttal to it. Alright, as always, we've got to get into articulation, so the head does turn side to side, as you see, but not really up and down, and the face does move, and we're going to get into that with gimmicks and stuff here in just a second. And then shoulder goes out to about there, and of course 360 rotation, which will give you a hooray. You can do that kind of stuff there. And then you do have a swivel split in the middle of the bicep. Okay, getting everything to focus on this small guy is kind of hard. And then you do have a way past the 90 on the elbow, and then you do have the typical hands, and the hands do move, so that's really, really tiny and achieving some really good stuff there. So as for the waist, you do have an ab crunch on him like so, which does work fine. And then side to side swivel, you can go out to here. No need for a side flap or a hip flap, and then the hip flap or the hip piece moves with it to the front, and it is really, really tight. That's really good though. It's really good that it's really, really tight. And then that's about all I'm getting to the back, so I don't want to do too much with that. And then you got the thigh swivel. You do have the knee, and is it double jointed? I don't see that it's double jointed. And then the foot's falling apart on me, but it can do a side and front and back and a whole lot of stuff with that foot. Of course, I don't know how much of that has to do with transformation or was intended for articulation, but it's there. He comes with 3 accessories, one being this gun, which looks a lot like a gun that he would have used in the show, which looks pretty good, and that works very well. It's not painted, and it almost matches his arm exactly, and it tabs into his, what's that, 3mm port? Is that what these guys use? And then if you fold his head up and then flip it around without, covering it completely up as I go, then you can post, you've got a peg and a slot for the head, and you can do this, and you can get his hoist goes to Hollywood maneuver going on, and then they can do the They're crazy monsters walking and that kind of stuff going on. If you want to do that, it's included, and also it includes a flight stand, which we'll see after a transformation. Okay, so you say you want him to fly around in his bot mode. Okay, so you can plug in this same plug you're going to be using when he's in his alt mode. You can plug that in, and you can have him fly around. You can get him in those kind of flying poses and that kind of stuff, and there it goes. So if that's something you want, you can use the flight stand in bot mode too. Now to get into what I believe is the most important part of a review, especially when it comes to third party and you're kind of dealing with several different companies and slightly different scales and perspectives and all that kind of stuff. So with that, this is compared to the G1, and usually Legends figures are decent replacements for your G1 characters. I think he's a little small for this, and this is where the character Powerglide kind of comes in, because I think in a lot of people's minds he should be bigger than he is, and the same thing with Warpath. So he is made bigger by the Masterpiece line, and with this, I'm okay with the size, I'm okay with the scale, but this character, I think it's all over the place in other people's minds. And here he is next to the Iron Factory version, which I only really use Iron Factory for stand-ins if I think it looks G1 enough. A lot of people that collect Iron Factory want the different look to it, the IDW aesthetic, I guess is what's going on with that, but anyway, I thought he'd be a little taller and be more like the Iron Factory, but I prefer this aesthetic way, way more than the Iron Factory aesthetic. And through the power of camera tricks and forced perspectives, I'm trying to kind of get a comparison to the DX9 version of Powerglide here. And with this, I want to say that the DX9 looks good and currently is the best one on the market until Fanstoys puts theirs out. Then there'll be a battle and we'll all decide then which one's better. Some people have their mind made up. But this one here, the way the feet were done on the DX9, where they kind of folded some of the wing pieces, the tail end, on this. So that's the way they did it. And so they did the same thing over here, except I think that I didn't like the way DX9 did it 100%, but then again, I don't really like the way they did it on this one here either. But there are two different ways to do the same thing, two different ends to the same means, or means to an end. All right, so getting into some mini bots, and this is comparison to kind of how they look with some other mini bots that are out there. I know for a fact that this one is Magic Square. Now I'm starting to question whether this one is the NewAge or the Magic Square. It's been a while, and I'd have to look up my review and figure out which one it was, because I don't remember anymore. But I kind of buy whichever one of theirs looks the best to me. And so with that, that's how they look. So I kind of feel like this one's kind of small, so I'm starting to think this one might be the NewAge, but I'll have to check and figure that out. And anyhow, that's how they look. And here he is with a few other figures, of course. Magic Square, Magic Square, Magic Square for sure. And so with that, I know that NewAge is putting their Hound out. I know it's going to have a better paint job, but I think that the Magic Square design is still better. But the Prime, I'm not really in on all the new Primes and that kind of stuff. But that's how it looks. This is a 1.0 Prime with a better paint job. All right, so getting into transformation. But before we do that, we're going to take this gun off. Set it aside. Do not lose that tiny little thing. And then you can lift this up. And if I can get it on camera, you can see he has a heart in there. You see that heart? It's kind of glistening. So, the girl who loves Powerglide. I knew they'd incorporate something like that. But, okay, so getting into transformation. It is a bit of a bear. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But let's give this forearm a hand and help it move over. Fold this up on here, and then we're going to tab it in like so. That's already starting out fun. There it goes. Same thing over here. So just kind of get underneath that. And everything's really, really tight, which I think is a sign of quality if it's nice and tight on there. Fold this up and then tab it in to the tab right next to the QC pass. Then we're going to fold these down, and then we're going to, that's going to kind of lift up. Fold this up, and we're just going to tuck the face out of the way real quick, and then all of this is going to fold down, close in these tabs, So that folds down. This folds down. And we've got the upper body mostly done. And fold this down into here. So tiny when you're used to dealing with masterpiece figures a lot. These are kind of tiny. This stuff will come up a little bit. We'll insert this into here later on when we get into it. But all right, so from here we're going to rotate this around, and then we're going to rotate the lower legs, and that is how that is going to work, sort of. And then we're going to get into moving these feet out and unfold the feet, and then they are going to make these parts right here. That is going to be for the jet mode. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then, so let's try to get us all configured to where it's all going to line up and look good. This is a little crazy here. Okay, so this is going to be to the top. That is going to be on the bottom, and that's all going to kind of flatten out and come together with itself. So let's make sure I have it oriented right. There we go. That's the correct orientation for it to look good. And then we're going to get into folding it on top of itself. I guess I folded it around too much, so then it folds on top of itself like so. Same thing over here. It's going to fold on top of itself like so. And then we're going to tab it in on both sides, and then level all this stuff here out. And all right, so a couple of things that are really tricky on this. So I'm going to come and untransform this, and we are going to need to fold this over to the side like that, and then slide this in, and it's going to all fit better into here like it's supposed to, which is a little strange in my opinion how they did that. But trying to figure out the correct orientation for these thighs is really kind of strange. So that's kind of where the problem lies for me, what I kind of got wrong, and it doesn't really make sense, but now it sort of does because it changes the depth of all of that. So it's kind of involved. I didn't realize it was this involved. And then I didn't have these pieces down, and then wow. Then finally we need to fold this up, and I found that you can't fold that up. That's why this thing stays to the back till you can fold that up. Then you can fold this down better. So there's a lot of stuff really strange, but once you get it done, I guess it looks okay. But wow, there's a lot more to it than I thought that it had to do. But we'll get it on the stand and take a look at it. All right, so it does look like a Powerglide. It gets the job done. Tab that back in again. And yeah, so with all of the steps that they have you doing and how kind of crazy it is for such a small figure and all that's going on, I would have thought that this would have looked better. The hinge, if that was on the inside, would have looked better. I don't know if they could have engineered it to do that. The hinge on the inside, I think, would have looked way better. And then still, unless I have it oriented wrong, then I just think it's strange that the pin shows on the side of that. But anyhow, nitpicking, it's a nice looking bot, and it's the best, most G1 accurate representation for Legend scale on the market. And the fiddly transformation aside, I guess if I did it 10 times or 3 times or something, it would just feel a lot more smooth and fluid. But there it is. Looking at it from the bottom, so it looks pretty clean on the bottom, and nice touch that you don't see the face, which is okay. It's kind of cool. And it's a nice touch they included a stand. That's part of the $40 price point, I guess. But with that, I don't know how many Legends collectors would like the stand and use the stand for stuff like this. But I personally am just going to have them in bot mode. And in bot mode, obviously I don't need the stand. But let's go ahead and get into a couple of comparisons. Okay, so getting into comparison, this is the G1 and where it all started, where it all began. So you can kind of see the difference there. So it does look pretty good. Pays quite a bit of homage to it. Not looking too bad there. And then some other stuff. fly stand does make it a little bit convenient for comparison purposes. You can just kind of hover right over everything. You can see what it looks like compared to everything else. And there it goes. So this is, one of these is Magic Square, one of these is NewAge. This is Magic Square and NewAge. But I think, yeah, that Beachcomber I had was actually a NewAge. I had to check. Alright, so what do I think about this figure? And it is the Hughes from NewAge. I think that it's a good looking bot overall. I don't like the feet. Although it looks decent, it's not perfect. But I love the presentation of these. I actually love the paint. I love how they present it. I feel like it's a little bit on the small side, but it's good enough for me. And it's definitely going to replace what I already had on the shelf, the Iron Factory. And so as it stands right now, this is the best NewAge, well, the best Legends. And I don't know if Magic Square's planning to put one out, but, you know, don't be shocked if you see a new one from Magic Square pretty soon. But I did get this at Show Z. You have a link down below where you can get yours, and there's going to be this one and a whole slew of different colors coming. I know there's a blue one on the way and probably some more, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you have this figure? Have you picked this figure up? Do you like this figure? And if so, was the transformation fun for you? Do you like a bit of a challenge? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, Twitter, Hanger out.
Can't get off the ground? I'll show you some real Oscar-winning material. What an auto hand!
Help! The evil alien robots are after me!
This is from space. This bit is the bits. I'd rather do the stunt crashes.